All right, everybody, we're back. Facebook Live. Here we go. So this week we're going to be talking about how to go faster, how to find seconds on track at Road Atlanta. I just got back from racing at Road Atlanta with WRL, World Racing League. They put on an awesome event. Had a great time. And I want to talk about three things that I've learned from my Apex Pro data this past weekend that helped me to go faster throughout the weekend. So that's what we're going to be doing, how to find time at Road Atlanta. I'm going to talk about three things specifically. You can see the nice Road Atlanta track right here. I'm going to use that to describe what I'm talking about. If you're watching, let us know where you're watching from. Drop in a comment and tell us where you're watching the video this week. That'd be awesome. Also, if you can hear me, hit the wow face. That really helps get the video in front of more people. So tap like, share it, hit the wow face on the comments so we can get this in front of more people and share what Apex Pro is doing for motorsports data. So again, we're going to be talking about how to go faster at Road Atlanta, specifically how to find seconds of time. And I'm not exaggerating. The reason there's several reasons that there's seconds out there at Road Atlanta, and it's one of the most challenging tracks that I know of, even though I've got a ton of time on it. So again, like and share the video, get it in front of other people. Let us know where you're watching from. John Dunsky's on. Welcome from Canada. How you doing, John? Good to see you. And then we'll talk about what we're going to be doing on Facebook Live in the coming weeks and how to keep up with some of this content. All right. So we were at Road Atlanta. I was running with World Racing League with Hong North Racing and their Mazda MX-3. Had a great time. Thanks to Kevin and Nabil and Ben and everybody. Hey, John. Hello. For letting me join them. Their Mazda MX-3 is a front-wheel drive car. It's got way more grip than power. No aero, maybe a little splitter and an air dam on the front, but no rear wing or anything like that. Unfortunately, we were a little outgunned in our class. We just didn't quite have the pace. It was racing against a bunch of Mazda MX-5 Cup cars, old NC Mazda MX-5 Cup cars, and we just didn't quite have the car to take it to them. But we finished fifth on Saturday in class, which we were happy with. After a big rainstorm. But I did get an Apex Pro in the car all weekend, and every driver ran them through the stint, except for one stint Sunday afternoon. I didn't run mine. I was just trying to bring the car home, and my priorities were a little different. But I did look at data on pit lane and found some things that were really important. I've driven Road Atlanta a bunch, but it's been a while. It's been 3 months since I've been in a race car. So last week we talked about me getting prepared for the event, getting ready to jump back in the car and what I was doing. But I really had to encourage myself to attack the track a little bit, to drive the car kind of aggressively because I tended to be kind of reserved. It's an endurance race. But to go find time, I had to be a little more aggressive because that car just has so much grip. You really don't use the brakes hardly at all, especially at Road Atlanta. And that's really what we're going to talk about. So I've got three things that I think are really important. And they're three things that your HPDE driving instructor is probably not going to tell you. Probably not going to share these things with you. So the first thing is I've got some fancy little stickies made. And this one, it's going to be hard to see, but this one says, early turn in, track falls downhill. Does anyone want to guess where on the track this goes? Somewhere you want to turn in early where the track falls away from you. It's a fast corner. All right. I'll put it on here. So where we're going to turn in early, this is going up through turn 3. They call this 2. This is 3. This is turn 4. These are the S's. Right here, this first right-hand corner, as you turn down into the S's, it's an early turn in. All right? Because right here, the track falls away substantially. I know you can't see that, but what that says is early turn in, track falls downhill. All right, so right there, as you turn to the right in the S's, you got to turn that wheel. John, good guess. Turn 5, that's close. Turn 5 actually might be something we discuss here in just a second. But turn in early here because, and when I say early, it's all relative, right? We don't want to turn in too early anytime. But start turning the wheel a little sooner than you think you need to right here. And the reason is because the track falls away from you really quickly. So as you come out of turn 4, which is this guy, we're bending the car back to the left. We're staying track left before we go right down the hill. It's really tempting to take that slalom approach, which is what we want to do in the S's. We want to get them, kind of like an autocross slalom. You want to apex at the backside of the in this case the gators that are going to be on either side. But in order to get to the backside of the gators right here, you got to start turning that wheel a little bit sooner than you think. And the reason is because the track falls so downhill, you really have very little grip. If you wait too long and you turn late to try and get to the backside of that cone, the car's not going to get there. It's not going to have any grip, especially because in our car, you're wide open throttle right there, right? You're not even cracking out of it. On Sunday, we had different tires on the car that were heat cycled, and so we actually did have to come out of the throttle a little. But, guys, as you can see, this says early turn in, track falls downhill. That's going to be the S's. Your first initial turn into the S's at Road Altanta is nice and early. And, again, your HPD instructor probably won't share these things with you, but next time you're at Road Altanta, really work on that. And something that we're talking about here is the Just Track It event this weekend is a great opportunity. I know there's a lot of people that probably follow us here that are going to be at Road Altanta this coming weekend. So I'm going to post a link to where you can sign up for that event, because Just Track It's been a great partner of ours for a long time. And they're running an event this weekend where you can put some of these things to practice. Gino, welcome. Mike Cooper, good to see you. Matt McCarty, Alessandro, welcome everybody. Gino, we were on track this past weekend, so we're talking about the S's right here. It's a little bit earlier turn-in than you think for the S's because that first right-hander, the track falls so steeply downhill. You got to start turning the wheel a little sooner than you think to get the car there. And if you don't, you'll pay the consequences. The car is going to be all out of shape. You're going to have to put more wheel into it than you want, and that's really going to create that Scandinavian flick effect, which is going to then load the car up when you go back this way, which is really just going to compromise your entry into turn 5. It's going to keep you slower all the way through the S's. So slow hands, early turn in on the entry to the S's, and that'll really help you out next time you're at Road Altanta. I promise it'll make it easier. You'll probably find some time because the car is going to feel more comfortable. Most of the things we're going to talk about with Road Altanta, because it has such dramatic elevation change and it's just such a crazy natural terrain road course, a lot of these things that we do with the car there are to accommodate that, right? It's really to just work with the track. That's really what we're trying to do. I'm going to share this video real quick to my personal page and get it in front of more people. So you guys just bear with me for just a second. But please, if you can hear me, hit the wow button or the like or something. Let us know that you're here and let us know where you're listening from. Just drop in a comment. I know people are from all over the place. Tommy, welcome. Jared, good to have you guys. I'm going to share the video real quick to my personal page so we can just keep things moving along. All right. All right, guys, so the second thing we're going to talk about, and we just talked about this early turn in, Robbie. Miata is pretty much always the answer. Yeah, the MX-3 is like a front-wheel drive Miata. It didn't quite cut it, but it's a really fast car. I did almost 6 hours in the car this weekend. No, I did more than that. I did almost 7 hours in the car this weekend. And it's got a lot of caster in the front, and the steering wheel just tries to rip the thing out of your hands, right? Because it's got so much caster and front grip. When you go to the power, the wheel's just pulling you. I mean, my forearms, I feel like I've been doing a pull-up for about 4 hours, just hanging there. So it's tough. All right, so the next thing that we have on my fancy sticky notes is brake early. Where on Road Altanta, what corner, and I'm going to give you a hint, it's on this side of the track, right? The first sector or two of the track. Where do you want to brake early? Robbie's driven Road Altanta. He can probably tell us. Just needs more radio. Love it. So where do we want to brake early? Where's brake early? Where's my sticky note for brake early going to go? I'll give you guys a hint. If you go look back through the comments, John Dunsky already said it. Brake early. Where are we going to put it? What turn is going to benefit us from braking early? All right, I'll give you a hint. It's going to be this one. Turn 5. Right there. The left-hander that goes up the hill. There's a lot of reasons that we do this. Turn 1, Ravi, you're right. Ravi says he brakes early into turn 1 and lightly, and that is the case. But in this case, I'm actually talking about turn 5. There's actually a lot of places at Road Atlanta where you want to brake a little sooner than you think you need to. Try to roll lots of speed up the hill. Jared said 5. Robbie said 5 as well. Yes. I just needed to let everything load a little bit longer. Turn 5. Absolutely. So what we're going to do here, after we get our somewhat early turn in accomplished for the S's and we're hugging the backside of those curves, we're going to hold the car left before we turn right towards turn 5. You really got to get your eyes on your turn-in point and then up the hill. And it's important to look at that turn-in point first, or you're going to shoot straight to the apex of 5, and you're going to really compromise your entry. But the reason we brake early there is because the topography of the track there compresses at the base of the S's, and then it goes uphill towards 5. And about the time you turn in, the track does this. I know I'm sitting here looking at the camera like this. I look like a Wookiee or something, but it flattens out. Awesome. Robbie says he dropped 0.7 seconds by rolling speed into 1 and 5. Rolling speed into 1 is an entire Facebook Live video unto itself. So we'll keep talking about 5, but the track is uphill as you're braking, and then it flattens. It's very uphill as you're braking. And you want to brake early because the track flattens out dramatically enough that as you're braking, if you maintain that brake pressure when the track flattens, you might get a lockup, or you're just not going to have enough grip to turn. That transition really affects the car. So in our car this past weekend, I would start braking fairly early and very lightly, like Robbie was saying, probably a 4.5 out of 10 on the brake pedal. I'd get to it real quickly, and I'd hold it there for just a fraction of a second and then smooth release. And then it's a fairly late apex, but because of the way the track is shaped, you kind of feel like you're turning fairly early, but you end up on the backside of that curve. Getting on the power soon is everything out of 5. Everything. If you're in a traction limited car, be really careful on the exit of 5. Make sure that you don't use too much. You make sure you get that fairly late turn in there so you don't run out of track out, because a lot of people end up in the inside wall. But for our car, it was really a bonsai corner. I mean, I was braking super, super light, just bleeding off a tiny bit of speed, chunking the car in there with a somewhat early turn in, but the car would still get a nice late apex, and I could get to the power soon. Not as soon as the MX-5s. You just can't do that in front-wheel drive cars for the most part, but it was tricky. Robbie says about a 4.5 out of 10 on the brake pedal. Yeah, just settle the front end. And the reason you don't have to brake super hard into 5 is because it's so uphill. It's so uphill. You just brush the brake pedal and the car slows down. Just bam. I mean, you can go in there and just come off the brake pedal and turn the wheel. And a lot of people that are really used to overslowing there, that'll do the trick. If you're not carrying that much speed through the S's. I mean, it's very uphill. But the reason that we brake kind of early there is because that transition in the pavement happens from uphill, where you have a lot of grip braking, to where it flattens, where you lose some grip braking. So you go from a lot of grip on the entry, where you're braking nice and softly. Then as the track flattens, you lose grip. You don't slow as quickly, but you've also got a turn there as well. So the turn in flattens a little bit. That's why turn 5 to me is so tough, because if you're rushing the corner, if you're charging the corner, you're carrying all this speed down through the S's, and you're approaching turn 5. Again, everybody here, I asked everyone where brake early would go on the track, and our answer was right here, turn 5. We're braking early coming up the hill because at our turning point, the track flattens and we lose grip. If we haven't braked early and settled the car down, when we try to add steering there, the car's not going to want to go where we want it to go if we're still trying to slow too much. Robbie says was just doing a mild rest on the brake pedal. Yeah, just enough to downshift the third for up the hill. Yeah, exactly. That's the exact way you want to approach it. I mean, 5 is one of the most challenging corners on the track because there's just a lot going on. If you can get out, we talked about this last week, if you can get out and walk the track, turn 5 is probably where you'll learn the most. You'll end up down here, right here in the S's, this point, and you'll be looking up a hill, and it's like looking up at the top of a 2.5, 3-story building. It's a huge, dramatic uphill elevation change, and it's hard to recognize that in the car. It's hard to feel it. So really make sure you're light on the brake pedal there. It's kind of a light and long brake pedal input. Get out of the brake pedal and turn that wheel. Remember, there's some grip loss at turn in, and then squeeze back to that power as soon as you can. Try to get the full throttle. I like to leave some exit space because if you get the exit wrong there, it can be really, really bad. That's where people hook it across to the inside. You've got plenty of curb to use, but don't use it every lap. Don't use it every lap. I like to rub the car up against it, right? Let it kind of catch the car and then put me back on the track. You don't really gain a ton of time going all over that exit curb. I spent all weekend with my Apex and a predictive timer in the car, and trust me, you don't gain a ton of time from running all over the curb. Yeah, it's Robbie said look down turn 5 from the grass. Yeah, they call that Spectator Hill. So if you're up on Spectator Hill and you're looking down from 5, that's another great vantage point. And you can also see where the hill, it kind of flattens towards the apex and then goes uphill again at the exit and then flattens as you exit 5. And a lot of traction limited cars come up over the exit of 5 with their hands almost straight on the wheel, still have some lock in it, and the rear tires spin. So turn 5 was brake early. For here, everyone that just joined, I said early turn in, track falls downhill, and the answer was ding, 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 the turn in for the S's. So after turn 4, hold the car track left, early turn in for the S's because the track falls downhill. You got to turn sooner than you think, or you're going to lose the front end of the car. You're not going to make the car get to the right side for that first apex curve in the S's. I asked where brake early would go on the track. Robbie correctly said turn 1, which is the case as well, earlier than you think. But turn 5 is what I was looking for. So turn 5, I've got one more, and this probably is the place where I saw the most people not doing it right this past weekend. I was behind several cars where I was going, man, I'm pulling a gap on this much faster car through here, like a big gap, and they're not doing it right. And it's just this little subtlety that if they, were behind me for a lap or 2 and was paying attention to what was going on, might pick up on something. And I learned this over a long period of time. And again, these are 3 things that I kind of fleshed out that I needed to work on using my Apex data this past weekend. I can't share the data screen with you here. I'll do that. I'll actually be making a more comprehensive 3 things to look at in my data Road Atlanta video. Hint, hint, these 3 corners might be involved. And I'll show you how I determine some of this stuff from my data. You use several different channels and the lights in the car to decide to work on these places. And then that's where I really challenge myself to think about it. But the next corner that we're going to talk about, we're going to have slow hands on turn in. All right. So these are the things, this is our priority in the corner. We want to turn in with super slow hands, which means a slow wheel rate, microscopic steering input. And then right here, this guy, roll speed is everything in this corner. What corner is it? I'll let you guys comment. What corner on Road Atlanta is rolling speed more important than anything? And I'll let you know it's not 12 or 1. What corner is it more important to roll speed than almost anywhere else on the track? Rolling speed helps your lap time, and you want to have slow hands on turn in. Turn 1, yes, as well. But like I said, turn 1 and turn 12 we could do. Because they're so big, fast, hairy, everything, we could do an entire thing on it. I'm really focused on this side of the track here. Anybody? I'm going to scroll down a little bit. Turn 6. Robbie said turn 6 a second. Yep, turn 6. This is what we want to focus on in turn 6. Slow hands on turn in and roll speed. And I didn't want to say early turn in again because I already used that here. But turn 6 is a much earlier turn in than you probably think. And this is something I only realized driving a bunch and looking at data. But look at the radius. So this is not a perfect example, but this is going to be turn 6 right here, and then turn 7 is more than 90 degrees. But turn 6 on any track map that you see or anywhere that you really see a picture of the track, it looks really tight. But what happens is as you start turning in somewhere around in this area, the track actually gains camber on an earlier turn-in type of line. So earlier turn-in. And what I want you to think about here is the next corner is this guy, turn 7, which leads on to this enormous back straightaway, right? Well, in turn 7, all that matters is your exit speed, right? You got to be within a couple miles an hour on your minimum speed. But the most important thing is how soon can you get to the throttle? Let me ask you something. Does it matter then how good your exit is for 6 if you're going to kill all the speed that you just had for the slowest corner on the track? Right? here. Yeah, Robbie says he's surprised with how fast turn 6 is. Slow hands and an earlier apex. Turn 6 is a hustle corner. Entry is all that matters. And again, these are 3 things that your HPD instructor is not going to tell you. When you go to Road Altanta, you focus on turn 6, and I actually think this is a safer way to approach it because of the way the track has grip. My sticker fell off here, break early in 5. So we're going to put slow hands and roll speed, turn 6. The reason I think it's safer to turn in early in 6 and roll more speed is because all the fast guys at Petit Le Mans, all the fast guys on the track, they're turning in early at 6 because they know that it's going to only help their lap time if they're faster here. They know they have nothing to gain by getting on the throttle soon, exiting 6. Your exit doesn't matter in 6. Your entry is all that matters. Again, that's not something that you're going to learn from, your normal kind of instruction, right? So what happens, because all of the pro drivers that drive this racetrack, all the testing that goes on during the weeks, all of the private days where we've got race teams there, the times when people that are driving this track that are really getting a lot out of it, they're bending the car in as soon as they can in 6 to hustle their entry speed into 6, to carry as much speed as they can, to slow down as little as possible. So you will notice and you will feel it, and you'll see it validated by the Apex Pro lights as well, which is how I kind of initially thought about this and confirmed it by talking to some friends. But if you start turning your hands pretty early, real slow, and completing the rest of the turn in as you get closer to the apex and trailing out of the brake pedal all the way in, you really don't brake much into 6. It's not a threshold brake. It's probably a 7 on the brake pedal, maybe a 6.5 depending on the car. In our car, it was a very light brake. It was probably a 6.5 on the brakes. The track does kind of go up and then it goes down a little bit when you brake, and then it kind of dips down towards, so you do get a high longitudinal G number on braking. But man, if you nail 6 and just focus on the entry, like Robbie's saying, it actually makes 7 a lot easier because your priorities are straight at that point, right? You realize that 7's all about the exit, 6 is all about the entry. So what I want to challenge you to do is just start backing up 6. Don't try to hustle it with as much speed as you can muster at first, but just soften your braking up, turn in a little bit sooner, let the car hustle down to the apex. And I played around with this all day Saturday and Sunday in the car because I did like a million hours. I'm super sore still, actually. I slept like 9 hours last night. I'm really worn out from driving the car. That car wears you out. But turn in earlier. I was behind an MX-5. Gino, if you're still here, it was one of the AOA cars. I don't know who was driving. It wasn't you. It was somebody else, the yellow one. And he would square off turn 6 to try and get a run out of it, it looked like. But where he would turn in was beyond the point. It was too late in the corner. He would stay left too long before going right, and he would get out of the groove where you can actually feel the track camber up with an earlier turn in, because so many of those fast guys have started turning in earlier there. And where the cars tend to go on the track is that earlier line, which is why I think it's safer to turn in earlier in 6, because there's actually physically more grip available there. The track has been driven that way more. Whereas if you turn in late, you're actually fighting the car to kind of jump down off of a flatter surface into the cambered corner, and you're going to end up with more grip on the front tires, or you're going to end up with the front tires basically falling kind of down into the groove and the rear tires still up on that flatter piece. And that can cause a lot of problems. That's usually what I see when people run off at 6. So all that to say, slow hands at 6, turn in early. Rolling speed there is everything. Your exit doesn't matter. Get set up for 7. Get on the power early. Go down the back straight. We'll talk about turn 1. We'll talk about turn 12 another time. 10A, 10B, we all know, great passing zone, threshold braking corner. I think it's pretty straightforward. It's a great corner. There's tons of runoff. You can play around with it. 11 and 12, one of the most unique set of corners in North America. Our little MX-3 was pinned, wide open to the firewall all the way through there. But it took a few laps to get up to it because turn 12 always does. You never just jump in there. Turn 1, another place where we're going to brake a little bit earlier. We're going to turn our hands a little bit sooner, and we're really going to hustle the car down to the apex. But getting on the throttle before the apex is super important because it's a high-speed corner, north of 80 miles an hour in most cars. And so we want to get back to the power before the apex there and carry the power up the hill. Thanks for sharing it, everybody. I appreciate you guys spreading this. I'm going to post this to our YouTube page. You can also watch it again on our Facebook page if you learned anything or if you guessed correctly on the 3 corners that we were talking about here at Road Atlanta. I'm subtly adding some things to my space here so that it's a little more aesthetically pleasing. Drop us a note if you want to see anything specific. And what I'm going to leave you guys with is subscribe to the Apex Pro YouTube channel. I'm working on a video just like we did for Barber Motorsports Park, but this one is for Road Atlanta. It's going to be called 3 things to look at in my data from Road Atlanta. And I think it's really important, and it's a good thing to look at data on a track-by-track basis. So I'm going to post a link in the comments to our YouTube channel. Go there, click subscribe. You'll get you'll get notifications when we post new content, and that just makes it easy for you to see what we're emphasizing in the app. Anytime there's new features or updates or anything, I'll make a video. I'll share it with you there. So follow along there. That makes it easier for you to see what we're doing. Share it with your friends. Let them know that we're discussing some of the tracks and stuff that you might go to, and let us know what track you would like to see next. But expect the 3 things from Road Atlanta video here soon. Subscribe to that YouTube channel and join us again next week. We'll see what we end up talking about. We'll post about it later this week. But thanks a lot, guys. I'll recap really quickly before we go for folks that might have missed what we were looking at here. Early turn in, track falls downhill on the entry to the S's. It falls really downhill. Start turning that wheel sooner than you think. You're going fast. You got to get the car to the apex and the S's. Brake early into 5. Surface change. Track goes uphill on entry while you're braking, then it flattens and you lose grip. Brake early while the track's still going uphill, but not hard. Make sure you commit the car to lateral loading and not to braking at the same time. You almost want to get out of that brake pedal even sooner. Recognize it's almost a 70-mile-an-hour corner as well. Pretty fast. Turn 6, north of 70 miles an hour, 70 and 80 mile an hour corner. Turn in early, hustle, 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 roll entry speed. The challenge in turn 6 is how little can you slow down. Pretty much all of Road Atlanta is that way. But share it. I posted the link to Just Track It at Road Atlanta this weekend. Make sure to go there if you're not signed up already and you're in the area, you've got a track car, join Just Track It. They know how a track day works. They do a great job. Quality folks. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel. I posted the link. I'll post it again. Hop on there, click subscribe. Make sure you get new content when we post it. And I'm going to peace out now. I'll see you guys next week. I need to catch up on my sleep. I have a serious racing hangover from racing with World Racing League this past weekend. Thanks for putting on an awesome event, guys. We'll see you next week.